Hi, everybody. This is Michelle Castiglia or Michelle D'Ambra with Josephine Zanetti.
Hi, Michelle. Nice seeing
Hi,
you.
good seeing you. So we've been doing these videos, I don't know, like almost a year. So we thought we'd do kind of like a reintroduction and kind of what we believe in and kind of I'll briefly go through how I got here because it started like 20 years ago. So 20 years ago, I started in my mid 30s making a bunch of changes to my health. I was taking care of my grandmother. She passed away with onset diabetes, congestive heart failure, obesity. So I started cleaning up my diet and doing different things. Well, life gets in the way. Like as soon as you get things going good, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I guess I'll go back to some bad habits. But I kept a lot of them. And then I would continuously, like maybe every 5 or 6 years have problems. And I started seeking out naturopathic doctors. And I found out that I had adrenal problems, gut problems like leaky gut. And then one doctor helped me tremendously. Again, made some changes, dropped some things out of my diet. But then I kept going back to where I would just kind of fall again. And I realized a lot of it was my personality that I was doing too much. I guess you would say a type A.
Yeah.
And my trauma response is to be overly productive. Like I find a lot of satisfaction, and I still struggle with that. Like where I get a lot done and I feel like I've had a great day because I've accomplished a lot. But I'm a little bit more mindful of it. And I do understand that I have to, if I have too much on my plate, I have to cut things out now. So that's why you'll see months go by of not doing videos because I had other things going on in my life. And I know now that I can't do everything. So I think that's where I've probably learned that the most. So about 7 years ago, I found hair mineral analysis, and that was just like a game changer because I've had working with naturopathic doctors and spending thousands of dollars. I did all kinds of different tests, and this one was interesting because not only was it about like the minerals, but it was like my personality too. Like I was able to
Yeah.
see things on a spiritual and personality level that I wasn't able to actually see ever before. So that's when I was like, wow, I could take all of my nutrition certifications and everything I've learned over the years and kind of combine it all and work this way. And it's even then that's evolved because I have my life coaching and now it's more self-care. Like I realize now that we can't be perfect. We can't follow a diet and supplement regimen and do all these things perfect, like checking off the list, if you're not doing certain other things in your life, and that meaning self-care. So I find that the way that I do things is not black and white. I don't believe in following like, here's the checklist, you have to do this, you have to do that, this is bad, this is wrong. Like, I don't believe in that. I believe that we're human and sometimes we're going to fall off the trail and then we get back on. Sometimes we're doing it 80-20, sometimes we're doing 70-30, sometimes we're on point, we're doing 95, 5. So I'm a little bit more flexible that way. And when I work with my clients, I'm the same way. I understand, over time working with different people, some people have a hard time taking supplements. Some people in the beginning have a hard time with the diet. Some people, it takes a while for them to let go of their relationship, their job, their habits that are causing the stress in their life, which is causing the health problems. So instead of using scare tactics or things like that, I approach it from a more realistic and patience and more loving kindness.
Yes.
So that's how I work. And I know Josephine works this way too. So, and she'll share more about her, but that's why we do these videos together because we have a lot of the same beliefs that way, that we believe that, treating people differently because of where they're at
Yeah.
instead of
Yes.
a cookie cutter. And you'll see a lot of people who run a business, they have this recipe because that's what sells and that's easy for them because they could just hand out the same thing to everybody. Because if you have to look at people individually, there's a lot more work involved. So as people get, busy, or even if they want to get busier, they'll take on certain things like network marketing, selling certain things because that helps generate revenue. So the way that Josephine and I work is quite frankly, like if you want to work with me, great. If you want to work with Josephine, great. If you don't want to work with either of us, great. There's
That's
a
right.
different coach for different people.
That's it.
And we're also at different levels and different ways in our life where I may not be good for you now, but you might come back later and we might be a good fit. So everything's just kind of fluid and gray in the way that I work.
Yeah, that's pretty much the way I work too. I like the idea of, having a list of certain things that I can do insofar as with, let's say, the diet, when we started out with the nutritional balancing, right? I mean, there was a little bit more diversity. Today, I understand why there's not as much diversity as there was before. The new diet is more for detox. It helps the liver to detox more. So when you start out, it's good, it's good to do some of all those procedures when you start out and all. And as you go along, even if, let's say, you slack off one day or two or three or whatever, and you, like you said, you get back on the bandwagon, then it's perfect. It's fine, I mean, because we're not Mother Teresa. I mean, let's face it, so, or Padre Pio, and these people ate anyways because they wouldn't survive. Although there are saints actually that only lived on the Eucharist. That's amazing to me. And they didn't. So this thing about food is because we're all very obsessed with food. That's the thing. And the reason we're very sick, most of us, okay, especially in the West, and I probably mostly in the West. I probably also in the East, it's the same thing. It's because we do have food has become porn for us. It's like it's porn. It's like I watch on Instagram all these recipes that people make, and if it's then I watch ice cream, and it's like everything about it. And if you're addicted to food and you watch that, I mean, forget about it. Eventually, they'll come and get you, and you're gonna go and you're gonna go out and buy a ice cream cone. The problem with the ice cream cone is that it's the sugar, but also the milk that they put in there. Because I mean, if it be raw milk, if it be good milk, but everything is so fake today. And I mean, like we talked about that before, the food before was so much better than it is today. The wheat was not problematic as it is today. So it's like, and we're much more stressed. I'm not sure why we're much stressed. I mean, people had babies. Women had babies. They had 10 per family, while their husband went to work. I mean, that's stressful to raise 10 children. You know what I mean? You would think. But somehow, some way, they survived. Of course, they claim that now we live a little longer. Our lifespan is longer. Whether it's true or not, it's hard to say, because even if we want to live a long time, that's another thing. It's like, what is longevity? Although we would like to live a long life, a healthy long life, the government is not going to allow it for you to live as long as you want, because we are not independent. We're not independent from the healthcare. We're not independent from the pensions that they give us. It's like all by design. Everything they've given us, it's all by design. So that way they can really cut our life shorter than really expected. Because it's the sooner, it's like if I would have brought my mom to the doctor, she would have went to the hospital when she went through a big crisis. That would have been, I'm not saying they would have done anything wrong insofar as terminating her life like they did with Harold, but she may not be the way she is right now, where she's able to now walk, she's talking, her mind is better, and all of this. And I can't really, I can credit part of it to she's eating well. She's not having any sweets. but she does have sometimes the pasta, but it's not with wheat, it's the gluten free, so once a week. But I'm very, very more careful with her. But people who get well on this program, eventually they can slack off once in a while. They don't have to be like this. It's like with pork. That's what I was talking to you before about. Now, pork, a lot of Christians eat pork. Now we're being bombarded, and a lot of fear mongering going on with pork. And it's been going on for some time, where the pork is toxic because the pork eats anything. And then you have the one that it's got the worm and it's got this and it has that. But if we buy good quality pork and from where you're buying it from, it's okay, because we're not back in the Mosaic laws. We are in the new covenant. God allowed us to eat certain animals, and part of that was the pork. Now, if you can get a good farmer and an honest one, where he's not giving the shots, the antibiotics and vaccines, and that he's well treated and he's eating, the pork is eating good food, then there's nothing wrong with having some once in a while. But you have to really do your research. And this is where people have a hard time doing.
Well, I think that's the thing, is that the average person is not getting their food from a farmer, that it's raised,
that's right,
humanely, and things like that. So I think that's the biggest issue. I personally am not a big fan of pork, and I don't trust it, and I don't like it enough to go seek out,
right,
the pork and cook it well. Like I can live without it. But I do believe also that it's so we've got genetics. Some people are superhuman. Unfortunately, they were born with, they're superhuman. These are people that eat like a crappy diet, and the next day they're doing a 50-mile bike ride or something like that. These people, just nothing touches them. Or you'll see this 100-year-old man, I think he was 100 and something, and he drank whiskey and smoked cigars. I don't know. You can't answer that,
That's it, exactly. That's right.
So not everybody's the same. And that's why we have to approach things differently, because somebody can have a great constitution. They're superhuman. They didn't have a lot of stress in their life. They see things differently. They're not going good, bad. They're not saying this is bad for me, because if you say something's bad for you and then you consume it, how is it going to be good in the body? Exactly. So, there's these tapes, how we were raised and so that's why I don't like to be very adamant about certain things, because I don't want to put something in someone's head and label it bad, because if it's not affecting them badly, then that's none of my business. So that's that. To me, I think that most people are not like that in their teachings, but I come from a more spiritual aspect and non-duality, and that if you label something a certain way, that you can actually think that, and it can cause a problem. So
yeah, it goes in the data. It goes in the computer mind. That's why they say also it's not good to watch porn for people who they only see a glance of it. It could be only 30 seconds. And then it gets into their brain and it goes in the data, and it's something that it comes and gets.
Or the news. If people watch the news, I have a hard time having a conversation with somebody who I know watches the news, because then whatever they're talking about, I know that was fed to them. And so I'm like, well, you're not really thinking critically and as an independent if you're actually watching the news. So I usually don't have conversations with people like that. So that's the thing too, is that these are a lot of things to take into consideration when you're working with somebody. Now, some people, they like to be told what to do. They need an exact recipe. They need to follow a list. They need to have their hand held or whatever. Then you know what? There's a lot of people out there that, you can work with people like that. I just rather approach things from, let's work on healing first, so sometimes you have to kind of follow a diet like Josephine said, you got to follow in the beginning because your diet was probably bad. You got all these tapes about food being good, bad, all that. So you have to kind of work through that and detox to be able to get to a level of consciousness where you can let go of a lot of these things and not have to do them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because like with the HTMA, it's all about detoxing. It's about letting go of the aluminum, the nickel, and the balancing all the minerals. And I mean, we are a people that it's a lifetime. It's a lifetime thing. If we have to go by that, that's why you got to take it easy and try to enjoy life. Because I mean, this is not something that's going to happen
It's
overnight.
not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in 6 months. And then
No.
I've had clients where one client, she didn't really do a lot differently. She doesn't do any of the detox stuff. Occasionally she does coffee enemas. She follows the diet okay. She takes her supplements. And then, for 2-3 years, she's just trucking along. And then all of a sudden she has this blast of elimination out of nowhere. How did that happen? It just worked. It happened. The timing was right. Maybe she shifted. I think she shifted some things in her belief system and let go. And, so those are the things too that make a huge difference, that you can't just say, okay, follow this and you're going to get this result, because you could just make one decision in your life that was holding you back, and you make that decision and then it releases you completely,
Yes, yes, absolutely. This is, I was in follow for almost 8 years, and nothing, I wasn't moving. My NAK wasn't moving. I stayed in follows. You would have thought that I wasn't doing the program at all. And I was doing my diet. I was even better because with Harold, while I was looking after him, because he was a diabetic, so I was feeding him the food that I was making. Of course, I was under a lot of stress, but I think then it was another move that I made when my father passed away, and all of a sudden everything shifted. Everything shifted. And quite honestly, it's not the diet. Actually, I went haywire with the diet. I don't know. So it wasn't.
But that happens. And I noticed, you probably noticed with your clients, that you have to, if you're going through a major retracing or detox, sometimes coming off the diet is necessary because it's overwhelming. So you have to almost slow down the detox and not do those things, perfectly, because it'll just be worse. So right. That makes sense that you were that was a way to mitigate and get yourself through the retracing and the letting go.
That's it, exactly. And it was like all of a sudden, and now, I mean, after all this time, I don't know, now I got to do my hair, but the last time I had a calcium shell. I said, I mean, how the hell did that happen? 200 and something. I said, my goodness, I must be going through some stuff for sure. But nonetheless, it's like not that the food changed or anything. It's the lifestyle. It's really a lot to do with the lifestyle. It's got to do with our attitude, the way we change. Our mind changes too, I mean, when I wrote the book, in 2015, 2016, and I read what I wrote, I mean, I changed, because at the beginning, the first part of the book, there's a lot of things that I wrote that I would not have there anymore. It wouldn't be there anymore. I mean, I like the book, it's okay, but there's a lot of stuff that I don't even agree with anymore. And it's not that long ago. So with the recipes, it's different. But with the first part, it's so we grow, and some people, they get stuck in the way they think, and because they don't really, for whatever reason, they stay stuck. Okay, me, I'm a person who's always searching, and I like to do research a lot, and it's not just with the wellness, it's with everything. I just actually did some research on Mercola lately, because I just found it quite amazing with him. He sends us newsletter. I'm not sure if you get them or not, but there was one on May 25th that he sent out. And it was about the experimental jab that 2-3 years ago or 3 years ago that they were giving. And he says that it's the leading cause of frequent sicknesses, chronic disabilities, including dementia and Alzheimer. And when I read that, I thought to myself, okay, now my mom's just went through a pretty ordeal, trauma herself, but she didn't get any jabs, and she only had one jab out of her lifetime. So I'm thinking, I said, well, I don't quite believe all this statement, what he said, okay? So then I started to go and search, because everybody right now in the wellness industry is tying everything to that jab.
Right,
Okay,
they're blaming everything.
Everything, even somebody that dies, oh, they must have got the jab. Okay,
I know, it's
so
ridiculous.
it's like, all right, so it's like with Mercola Inc. Okay, I call him Mercola Inc. because that's how much he makes, quite a lot of money. Him, like over in his net worth was like $11 million in 2017. So but many more like him as well in the wellness who make big profit fail to recognize that there's an aging population, age 65 and older, that keeps increasing due to the baby boomer generation. It just happens that by 2030, Agenda 2030, 1 in 5 Americans is projected to be 65 years and over. Okay, and so, but everybody talks about it, not everybody, but the wellness, even RFK Jr. talks about it, about this Agenda 2030, but the 2030 is also got to do with us getting older also. So I don't completely buy into anymore that C19 jab narrative, that it's killing more people. People are actually, many of the elders that died during that pandemic that occurred were either euthanized without their consent, and many that are currently dying are the elderly population, who many continue to be euthanized, or else they elect to be euthanized, because in my country it's legal. You elect to be euthanized. I have a woman, my best friend, who's 90, who's my age. She was my best friend in school, and her mother, I found out on Facebook that she elected to be euthanized, and she wasn't sick. She was pretty. She looked wonderful. She shows a picture of her mother, but she elected to be euthanized, and she at 90 years old. So that was last week that happened. Last week it happened. So I'm thinking, wow, I mean, this is like getting crazy. Now people are electing to be euthanized. We're falling right in the trap, you know. They want to get rid of us because they think it's overpopulated. And here we are electing to be euthanized ourselves. It's like, I mean, I don't know. We've lost common sense. But the modern science, I'm thinking, may give us a lot of clues about about diseases and how it affects us, including how toxic metals play a major role in our bodies and in our diseased bodies. But there's other possible causes to consider that is beyond science, way
Yeah.
beyond science.
Well, if you think about it, that older generation used a lot of canned goods too.
Yes.
So we have to, each generation, my generation, we grew up with TV dinners. So
Yes, me
we
too.
have to look at that. There's
Mm.
certain things in the generation that was new and different. And then as the younger generation, they're more depleted because of the food sources are terrible. And then their parents are depleted because it's being passed down. So the older generation actually was built better than us. So because they had better food quality, but they did get into the canned goods and stuff. So I think that was a big problem.
Yeah.
And then our generation, we had the TV dinners, and then you have babies, and you've got those mineral imbalances, and then those babies have babies, and we're just passing down these mineral imbalances, which I think is contributing to all of a sudden a huge population being completely confused about who they are. So, I don't want to get into that because I know that's very political, but I think that, if you look at it, we didn't have as many people confused about their sex and all these things many years ago. There were some, I do believe that some people are probably born a certain way, but the confusion and the mental illness has increased because we're passing down a lot of these deficiencies. And then you've got the news and the politics and the things
Yeah,
going
well,
on with
all the
social
brain.
media. We
Yeah.
get all this information very fast. Occasionally I open up Twitter and I'm like appalled that every single post on there is drama and trying to get people upset. And I see myself get upset. I'm like, why are these people beating up on each other in Target or whatever? I'm like, is this what's going on in the world? Because I don't watch the news. But then I'll read the comments and somebody's like, oh, this is from 10 years ago. So people are literally posting things to get attention, to cause division, and to get people angry. So when you are looking at these things, you got to remember that that's what the people that rule the world is. They want us sick, tired, broke, and fighting with each other. If you can always remember that when you're looking at something and you're reading something and you're talking to someone, to remember that that's what they want. They want you sick, broke, fighting, all of these things. I think we would approach each other differently if we looked at this is what they want. Just as soon as you see something that's triggering you, go, wait a minute, this is what they want. They want me to get upset. They want me to get mad at a certain race. They want me to do, this is programming at its finest, especially now with social media. And then the algorithms and AI, they know exactly what you respond to. So as soon as you look at something for more than a couple seconds, it's going to show you more of that to get you more upset. So I think it's really important to remember those things when you come into, when you're facing something like that, when you're reading it, seeing it on the internet, is to just stop for a minute and say, what is this reaction? And this is what they want. I'm going to ignore it. So right away, if I stay on something too long and I know it's going to show up, I switch through them really fast. I'm like, get this out of my algorithm. I stopped too long on this video. Now it's going to show me a whole bunch of hateful videos like this. So I need to move past them really fast and look at a whole bunch of cute dogs and cats so that I can get those back in my feed.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I do. I watch babies mostly.
Because
But
it's easy. We fall right
exactly.
into it. It is so easy to fall into it. If you're just having a bad day, somebody ticks you off, you're tired, and it's so easy to just suck us in. And it's really important to try and just stop for a minute and remember that that's what they want.
That's it. Because we can't spend too much time with this is the same thing with anything that you read on the internet. I don't care who it is and whatever it is. If anybody triggers you, whatever they write about, just like let's say with Mercola, I don't agree with everything he writes, but doesn't mean I don't agree on certain things. We need to learn how to discern. There's certain things that they're pushing. It's very subtle in the way they push what they're pushing, but it doesn't mean that he doesn't give good information on other things. He does give good information. You got to take what you think is common sense. Now, the thing is, the common sense is not that easy to acquire. It's also something that God gives us. Some people have more than others, and it's something that we can train ourselves to have a little bit more. So the more we educate a little bit ourselves, it makes some sense too, but it's also with time, I suppose, more. But
well, there's also the vibration. Like, is this fear? Is this desire? Is this hate? Those are all low vibrational things. Is this? Are we talking about love and higher levels of consciousness? it's very easy when you're feeling those lower vibrations to get sucked into those lower vibrational things.
That's right. Exactly. I don't think
So,
that,
yeah.
that's right. So it's like, no matter what we're always gonna encounter the dark side and the light side. So it's
Yeah.
like, this is where, and having some darkness is okay too, because that's an instigation. It instigates us in order to not go deeper into it, but at least try to go into the light instead
Yeah,
of staying
it's
in
a
the dark.
movement thing. You
That's
can go
right.
in, just don't stay in there. So I'm
Right.
gonna have to wrap this up. We've got a few minutes, but you know, our talks are just talks. We just come on here and talk about different things. I know we don't usually, we try to follow a format sometimes, but a lot of times we don't. And our topics just come up through conversations. Josephine and I talk a lot, you know, during the week, either text or we leave each other voice messages. And then we'll come up with different topics based on how, whatever message we're getting.
So basically, don't feel despair. Don't feel despair. You know, some people think they go on a program and they think the program is not working because they're not doing enough of it, or they're doing so much of it, and it doesn't work that way. You have to take it day by day. You're on the nutritional balancing program. Basically, I think it's a good path in the sense of with the diet, even if you don't follow it 100%, you do some of the procedure, and it's everything that we've learned 40, 50 years ago, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, with coffee enemas and acupuncture, reflexology. There's nothing new here under the sun, really, nothing new under the sun. It's not a keto diet. It's,
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So,
something that you can't keep at all.
Right,
you know?
exactly. Right,
People fall off the
exactly.
wagon with those things because it's just impossible to keep. And
That's
then
right.
you go to
That's
the
right.
extreme because it's too impossible.
That's right, exactly.
All right. Well, we only have a couple minutes, so I want to wrap things up. I have to get the Zoom meeting. I haven't been paying for it, and I didn't realize that they cut people off after 40 minutes, even for 2 people. So I'll have to get the paid plan again. So we have to end this. But thanks again, Josephine. I love when we get together and chit chat.
Yeah, hopefully we'll do it we'll do it soon, and we'll be talking about maybe the people who are listening and watching. First, do a thumbs up. It would be wonderful for Michelle.
Leave comments.
Yes,
Yeah.
leave a comment. That would be wonderful if you could leave a comment and tell us what you would like us to talk about next
Please.
time. And
it makes it easier for us if we know what you want to hear.
That's right. Okay, so listen, have a beautiful day, and we shall see each other very shortly.
You too. Bye, everybody.
Bye.